A very warm welcome to each and every one of you. I would like to acknowledge the presence of our respected Sir Professor A.K. Buragohai Sir, Register Sir, Dr. Diganda Munshi Sir, and also all the dignitaries and all the respected deans, senior faculties, colleagues, and my dear students. It's an honor for me to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished guest speaker, Professor Prabuddha Ganguli Sir, CEO Vision-IPR, with whom we will be having an interactive session on intellectual property right and IP management shortly. Not just a gathering, it's the initiation of Vikshit Bharat 2047 at RGU. The vision of Government of India to make India a developed nation by 2047, which will mark the 100th year of independence. To enrich the Vikshit Bharat mission, we have a distinguished personality from the domain of IPR, that is, namely, respected Sir Professor Ganguli. Now I would like to invite our respected Sir Professor A.K. Buragohai to kindly come and address the welcome speech.
Extremely privileged to have with us this afternoon one of the distinguished IPR experts of the country, a great academic, Professor Prabuddha Ganguli. He is based in Bombay, and you will soon come to know about his brief background, how he had come in his journey to become one of the most distinguished IPR experts in the world. He is a member on the, if I am not wrong, you are a member on the WTO subcommittees, World Trade Organization, and he was the advisor to the principal scientific officer of Government of India for many years, from 2005 to 2018. Long years, the principal, he was the advisor to the Government of India Prime Minister's office on IPR. I have personally long association with Professor Prabuddha Ganguli. He was the IPR chair professor at Tezpur Central University, where I was working, and where later on after he joined, I became a part of the whole program on IPR that we have launched. Since then, we have been meeting, working together, and the moment I came to know that he is in Guwahati on an invitation from the governor of Assam to address the vice chancellors today, this morning, I said, why not? In the afternoon, after that lecture, you come and address our faculties. Because we are basically engaged in academics, means intellectual activities. These are the places, universities are the places for creation of knowledge. So these creations are the intellectual property, not only of the university, but of the society, of the country. So therefore, we have to be very, very aware about the importance of this creation and about the mechanisms, means, legal and otherwise, about its protection. Otherwise, intellectual property is intellectual property. It's unique. It's invaluable. So we must know the value of the worth of this property. And it comes out of hard work. It comes out of your great passion. So lifelong work and all that. So we must know, we cannot take it lightly. So that is the reason why he is there. And also the context in which this lecture has been quickly organized is the Government of India's flagship program of a developed India, what they call as the country is being telling us as the Vikshit Bharat or the developed India. So in a developed country, what is a developed country? When the country becomes economically strong, then that gives the tag that it is a developed country. And economical growth can only happen through innovation. And innovation results in intellectual property. And until and unless the nation does not have a very strong, robust IP regime, the country's intellectual property is not well protected. And if it is not well protected, our intellectual property, it will not attract people from outside for investment. We are talking about bringing in startups so that they can contribute to the growth of the economy of the country. We have an institution innovation cell established under the aegis of the central government. I mean, it's for the young people. They are very, very creative. They are very imaginative. So we provide a platform for them to bring out their ideas so that these ideas, through the process of intellectual rigor, exercise, their passionate drive, pursuance, ultimately these ideas of the mind can ultimately reach the market. But this journey calls for lot of acquisition of knowledge, and one part of that knowledge is your knowledge about the intellectual property rights. How do you protect it, right? And once a startup, young startup entrepreneur has his innovation IPR protected, then it will attract many people to come forward and fund. So because that is a tag, IPR protection gives a tag, a legitimacy kind of thing, a justification that yes, I have money, I want to invest on this technology, on this innovation. But how do I know that this is worth investment? Do you understand my point? So if your innovation on which you want to sell an idea through the market product or service, if that innovation has the tag of the IPR, whether in the form of copyright, whether it is in the form of patents, industrial design, geographical indicators, you just name it. There are multiple kinds of, there are 7, 8 different kinds of intellectual property rights. You will get to know about it. So once you have, as a young innovator, that IPR tag on your innovation, that adds value to your innovation. That not only protects your innovation, but that also attracts investors to come and invest on your innovation. So your startup can flourish. And if the startup flourishes, the economy flourishes. From a startup, you become an enterprise. From an enterprise, you become an industry. And that is how the country grows economically, right? So that is the idea. And that is how we have linked up the whole lecture of a person of his eminence. And it's a pity that, I don't know, for whatever reason, the crowd is so small. I anticipated that in the afternoon, the crowd would be small. And that's why I said they shifted from the auditorium to this. But even this has become a little too large. But anyway, the masses will be transmitted. The masses will be replicated, and I think we have to really bring in a culture of innovation tagged with the issue and the dimensions of intellectual property rights. We have a law department, and I think they have IPR experts. With these few words, I will not prolong. I thought this is essential because you have to understand the perspective, the importance of why Professor Prabuddha Ganguli is invited here, and he has, after a long journey from Bombay to this poor lecture today, and he has come here. So please, I welcome you personally, sir, and it's a pleasure to be with you once again after many years, several years, I would say. Thank you.
Before we proceed with the program, I would like to give an overview of our distinguished guests. So Professor Ganguli, sir, has obtained his MSc Chemistry from IIT Kanpur, eventually his PhD from Bombay University, and awarded for his research conducted at Data Institute of Fundamental Research, Mumbai. He completed his postdoctoral research in Germany and Canada. Professor Ganguli, sir, has more than 2 decades experience, both national and international. Sir has contributed as a research scientist and visiting scientist at reputed research centers. Since 2001, he has been managing his consulting firm as a CEO of Vision-IPR. He is also a qualified and leading patent agent. Professor Ganguli, sir, has more than 50 publications in technical and more than 80 publications in IPR, which also include chapters in IPR subjects. He has been awarded for his outstanding contribution in the field of intellectual property in 2011. In 2014, the legal fraternity in India honored him with the Lifetime Achievement Award. The Data Institute of Fundamental Research also honored him with Excellence Award for his contribution in technology management and IPR. He was also honored with GIPC Award 2020. And recently, in November 2023, Professor Ganguli, sir, was honored with IP Legend Award. Sir, your contribution and achievement are so extensive that if I continue, it will take the entire day, sir. Therefore, I, Elizabeth, on behalf of the Royal Global University, would like to welcome you, sir. We are really honored to have you in our presence. I would like to now call our respected Professor A.K. Buragohai, sir, to kindly come and felicitate our distinguished speaker. I would also like to call Dr. Arup Kumar Bora, OST, to Honorable Governor of Assam, to kindly come.
Right.
Very good afternoon to all of you. What I'm going to do in this short session, let it be interactive, okay? It won't be a monologue. I'll just put on a few points and you can stop me anytime, okay? So let's make it interactive and interesting. So, I was just putting up this slide to really take you back by almost 2 million years ago. That what was the world 2 million years ago? And we'll quickly sort of traverse the 2 million years up to this point in time, maybe in about 5 minutes. Okay, so we'll do a quick callback of what happened 2 million years ago and what's happening now. I mean, if you go back by 2 million years, as a society, we're basically a hunting society, right? And even though we were a hunting society, it sounds very simple today. But imagine 2 million years ago, if you wanted to hunt and you didn't have any implements, you didn't have anything, what would you do? You have a wild animal in front of you. What do you do? Say, come and eat me up? What do you do? So, obviously you've got to innovate. You'd create implements, right? You have to think, you have to generate, you have to create. So the whole aspect of creativity is something that is not new. It's been inherent. It's the challenge which comes before you. You find out what are unmet needs. First you find out what your needs are. Next, have they been met? And if they have not been met, you've got to meet those unmet needs. And that's how you create. So whether it is 2 million years ago, where you were coexisting with nature, and then later on, we got into agriculture. So food was not only meat, but also produce of the land. Again, a challenge. What do you produce? How do you find out what you should eat? Have you ever seen these animals as to how they decide what they will eat and what they will not eat? Just some time back, very interesting, there's a whole bunch of monkeys in front of me. I mean, I'm very fond of wildlife, and I can share with you later, all these exploits. But there were these monkeys. So, I just threw some chocolates at them. You know what the monkeys did? They unwrapped it, smelt it, and ate the chocolate. Then I wrapped, a little stone in the same wrapper, threw it. People looked like that and threw it away. So who are you fooling? But see that, that sense. So even a monkey is creative, right? So the point is that sense of creativity is something which is so innate, right, to living. So agriculture, okay, very, very innovative. What to eat, what to do, how will you increase the productivity, etc., etc., etc. Again, innovation. Then what is the next phase? Give me the Industrial Revolution. And can any one of you tell me during the industrial or before, much earlier to the Industrial Revolution, much, much earlier, going back by maybe several thousand years, not million years, but thousands of years, what do you think was one of the most fantastic inventions that humankind had done? Anybody? A wheel. Amazing stuff. I mean, imagine a wheel, right? I mean, how many of you have been to, for example, in Egypt? Have you been to Egypt? Anyone here? You must visit. It's a fantastic place. I've been there dozens of times. And every time I go to the pyramids. I mean, imagine those massive blocks of rocks that they were moved. How were they moved? And not only moved, but then you have to place them one on top and go right up to the top. Imagine of putting them all and getting that whole structure up. What level of creativity that they did. Same thing with all the temples and many of the other things, architectural wonders that we have, in India. So again, then after this industrial revolution, for example, came in the computers, calculators, then computers. Then that was followed by information products. Information became a product, right? Then with information becoming product, you had Internet of Things. I'm saying you had. Already it's past. Internet of Things. And now from Internet of Things, you've now come to, smart societies. Not only that, look at where we are moving. This is up to where I had seen. Now, this is what I created, saying Smart Society 7. So I'm saying from 5, you didn't go to 6. You're going straight to 7. You jumped a generation. So what is that generation jump? See, your smart materials, synthetic biology, artificial intelligence, metaverse. So real world, a virtual world. And the coexistence of real world and virtual world. Right? In a metaverse, you go up and down, up and down. It's a dynamic process that you go through. So into AR, VR, real world, etc. Not only that, see the interesting part. Now with AI, if I embed an AI system in my body, would you call me human? Think about it. Am I a natural person or am now legal people, those who are from law, will I be considered? Now with an artificial intelligence thing embedded in my body, would I be called a natural person? Challenge. Because a lot of what I'm going to do is going to interact with my brain and enhance the function of my brain. So am I natural anymore? Then what's the difference between somebody who's taken a drug and me who's got an embedded? With a drug, you tell, oh, that person is drugged. With an artificial intelligence system, will you call me drugged? So there are questions. So there are new types of questions that are opening up. And we need to be open to this type of thinking. That's one. Okay? Imagine in this room, 15 years down the line, what is going to happen? There will be people like you and me. There will be, different types of artificial intelligence systems sitting here. There will be hybrid systems sitting here. And a whole bunch of mixed type of, within quotes, beings. I'm not calling them human beings or animals, they're beings. So the whole system of society is going to be very different. So that's the society we are heading towards. That's the reality. And just about 4 or 5 months ago, how many of you have heard the work that has been done now where the fetus has been created? Anybody? The fetus. Right? They've created a fetus, which means that today you're in a position to create, targeted, designed beings, including now they've created a human fetus. And the big question going on as to how many weeks will you allow that fetus to grow? Right? If so, how will you do? What will you do? So this opens up completely new types of questions. And therefore we are talking about a translational real and virtual duality into it. So we're going into a completely different world. So the world of today, don't get bullied by the world of today. Think about the world of tomorrow and day after. And the way we as students have to think and faculty have to think in terms of our futures. So that is where we are talking about things. Now, so if you look at that, we hear this term called knowledge society all the time. So the important part here is that if you want these type of things to come up in knowledge society, what we are going to do is we have the whole issue of, this which you just put here. 75 years, right? And if you look at the Constitution of India, see here, freedom of expression, universal access, diversity, education for all, etc., all embedded in that. Very strong. When you take this, then to achieve this, you need to do this. What is that? Knowledge creation, knowledge preservation, knowledge dissemination, knowledge utilization. And all these, if you do in the right way, that you will be going towards a knowledge society. So that's the way in which we are doing things. And therefore, to do this, there's going to be, and the challenge is here. Sustained societal growth, powered by continual research and innovation. I showed you over 2 million years. It's always been innovation. Otherwise, you don't progress. With decisiveness, excellence, inclusiveness, fairness, and dynamic synergy. With what? With various stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Here. Wellsprings of knowledge and crucibles of learning. You have the Royal Global, for example, is one example of this here. It's crucibles of learning. I call it crucible. Right? So crucibles of learning and wellsprings of knowledge are our educational institutions, R&D institutions and others, which is here. But can this survive on its own? Answer is no. It needs that what it creates must go to the society, as Professor Burgan just mentioned. And if that has to happen, you need funds, so there will be funding and nourishing sources. You will need knowledge converting channels. He talked about startups. He talked about entrepreneurship. He talked about various things. So all of them come here. You need knowledge brokers who will take the knowledge that you create, play with it, and then serve it to the society. Because you are not in a position to give it directly to the society. So they have to have. So it's like the cooks will cook it. Somebody will have to then package it properly, create the whole thing, transport it, create the logistics, and then serve it to the society. So the chefs may be here, but then you'll need people who will deliver this. Now when you do this, important part is you need a policy platform. So if the country is there, the government provides a policy platform on which you operate. And not only that, but then all this must function within an ethical and legal framework. There are two different words, ethical and legal. So what is all legal need not be ethical, and what is all ethical need not be legal. They are two separate things, ethical and legal framework. So there are regulatory systems. So the regulatory systems come from here, and all these operate through that. And you need a dynamic synergy. So this is where the issues, so when we look at innovation, it is not a one-dimensional thing. It's a multi-dimensional set of activities. And we need to understand that. And that's where we have the various types of disciplines and departments and others must come together and work. Single thing doesn't happen. You can't translate that into something. I will jump a few slides, but before that, let us come to seeing that when the human mind works, how many ways in which does the human mind create? Let's think about it. Anybody? I've written it all here, but can somebody tell me how many ways does the human mind create? You're seeing it here actually. I want you to, before me telling you, I want you to tell me by looking at this.
Because of necessities.
Sorry?
Necessities.
Yes, that's one. But when did necessity, what do you do? Let me put this. You give me an example of a necessity and then tell me what do you do with it. Give me one example of necessity.
Just
Phone. And why did you need the phone? Why is phone necessary?
communicate.
Communicate. You could have screamed.
No, screaming I cannot scream. I can scream up to a level.
Yes.
Beyond that level I cannot scream.
The
I
older,
can communicate a person sitting.
so the olden days, people used the bird. They would tie something on the bird and the bird would fly and give it.
That one is not that sophisticated as it is today.
How did you not know it is sophisticated? In that age it was sophisticated.
Their requirement was up to that, but our requirement is more.
Okay, so therefore, if your requirement is more, then what is it that you are trying to address? What is that thing that you're trying to address? Yes, but then if I ask you in one word, I will give you that you are trying to look at functional aspects of that particular challenge. Better communication, functionality. Correct? So you're looking at issues of functionality. And the moment you look at issues of functionality, technical aspects come into the picture. Now that pigeon is not good enough. So you need a technical solution to the pigeon. Correct? A technical solution to the pigeon. And therefore, you then, those days, talked about radio waves, etc., etc. You know, Jagdish Chandra Bose and other people who came into the picture. And then after that, the further developments, and further developments, and further developments. Those were all technical improvements. Coming out of a need which you wanted to satisfy, and therefore all functional aspects of that was a whole series of technical improvements. That was one type of creation. What could be a second type of creation? Think about it. Second type of creation.
Sir, I think the technology has grown so much. Now humans are trying to play God. They can create or edit genes nowadays, whatever we already discussed. So now I think humans are in a state where they are trying to, they say you have written all those things, like GMOs and all those things are already there.
So those still fall under functionality.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go beyond functionality now. Aesthetics, very good. You know, when you go to the shop, right, you get your eyes tested, etc., etc. Now you want the frame. What do? Good looking. So you take a frame without the glasses, then put that mirror like this and look at yourself. Right? How do I look? So you look at the aesthetic features. You're not looking at functional features. Now you're going to non-functional features but aesthetics. Second type of creation. Right? Go to a third type of creation. Right in front of you. You can see this slide? I could have written all this in black, like bowling, bullet points. None of you would read the slide. What have I done? A lot of circus. Right? A lot of circus with the words. That's why you're looking at the slide. So, this is an example of creative expression. I sing, I dance, I do a sculpture, I take a photograph, I do various things. I perform, I act. Now I'm giving a lecture as a performer. I'm performing. Right? So these are all creative expressions. So third type is creative expressions. There's another type of creation. Non-functional, but creative expressions. There's a third type. I write a poetry. I write a novel. I write a story, music, etc., etc. Creative expressions. Same raga sung by 10 people will sound completely different. So, creative expressions. Come to a fourth type. What could be a fourth type of creation? Tell me. Anybody? Very interesting. Fourth type of creation. Actually, Professor Alok Burgan, alluded to it in his, hand-waving statements. Anybody? Anybody? How do you, for example, when you go to a shop, right? And let's say I want to buy, let us say a perfume. What do I do? Sorry? Smell it, that's one. Do you go with some preconceived notion sometimes? You use the word brand.
Uniqueness.
Brand. Now, when you talk brand, what is a brand? I worked for Unilever for 20 years. Okay? My first part of my career was with Unilever.
I associate it with the product.
Absolutely. So what do? There's some name. Okay? When you say Lux, you have this beautiful advertisement, this lady in the bathtub, all that out there. And then what's your, so that's it, A dream. A dream comes true. Correct? A dream comes true. So we sell you dreams. Number one. Number two, what do we sell? You remember the name Lux, Fair and Lovely. You know, now Fair and Lovely is a bad word. Okay, so they change the word. But once upon a time, one of the highest selling brands in the world. Right? Very interesting. So you see some signs. You know, if I put this with a sign of which company? See, I just do this and you say Nike. Interesting. And if I draw something like this, what is this? Apple what? Apple what? Sorry? None of you said apple. Partially eaten apple fruit. None of you have said partially eaten apple fruit. Correct? See how you have been brainwashed. You have forgotten that I am drawing something like this, right? And you could have said apple fruit, partially eaten. None of you said it.
Such fruit is as a whole, but in the apple side,
Huh?
it has been eaten.
Yeah, but even interestingly, I ate an apple and showed it to my grandson. He said, iPad. Okay, in front of him, I bit it and showed him. He said, iPad. 3-year-old. This is going back, now he's 14, but 3-year-old, so many years ago, he said, iPad. Imagine, not drawing nothing. Eat an apple, he learns apple fruit. So then I told him, when you group it, now I'm going to cut an iPad, or you want a piece of an apple. So you can see these type of creations, right, where a symbol, a word, and things of that type get associated with a product or service. Right? Very important. That also is a creation. Somebody has created. So, many years ago, here, 2001, when I was starting my company, my consulting firm, after working for 20 years with Unilever, I said, I want to name my company. Normally, all consulting firms are named after names. XYZ, associate, blah, blah, blah. I said, no. I want to name my company creatively so that people read the name and say, we know what is services. So what did I do? Very simple. There is another aspect of creativity. The word vision is known, IPR is known, nobody had put a hyphen in between. So all I did was put a hyphen in between. Vision-IPR. I named my company as Vision-IPR. I could have written it in one word. No, I put a hyphen there. And just to differentiate a bit more, I made it look like this. Today, all across the world, if you go around, they know that this is my company. Right? So, these are other forms of creativity. So, functional, non-functional, shapes and ornamentation, these type of creative expressions, and those type of things where you put in words, symbols, sounds. For example, very interesting. When I said firestone, what does it mean? To any one of you, firestone? Firestone is the name of a? Fire. That is one, but firestone, when it's a firestone, is the name of a tire company. Correct. Tire. Right? Now this tire company wanted to, they're going back almost 20 years. They want to brand themselves, make it different from others. So they made a tire that smells like rose. A tire should smell like a tire. But somebody says, no, why don't you make it smell like rose? Why? Because, when you put those 4 tires in entering your car, you feel you're entering a garden of roses. Create a brand. Right? So, and mind you, I'll come later on, this became a signature of Firestone. Tire that smells like rose. You may say it's crazy, but consumer. took it out. So this is important. So those are the various types of creations. And therefore, you know, it's very interesting. No other than Swami Vivekananda, a few hundred years ago. What did he say? Very interesting. Remember the case of the professor who learned the secrets of making marble in 12 years, while it took nature several centuries. Chemistry. Right? Chemistry. That chemistry took so many million years, and you made it in the lab. Diamond, artificial diamonds. Right? Take all these things. Different. I mean, somebody like Swami Vivekananda need not associate with these type of statements, amazing statements. So, I won't go into details, but that's what Professor Burgan said. Ideas, creative endeavors, which turn into innovation. And when does it become innovation? When the creations become operational in society. Then it becomes an innovation. So we are talking about innovations. Otherwise, if this does not happen, then it only remains as creative endeavors and remains within the walls of global, your Royal Global. If you wanted to go outside the gate of Royal Global, you have to know how to go from here to here. And this is a very big job. And this is where the challenge lies. How do you go from creative endeavors into innovations? And then survive the world of challenge, of competition, etc., etc., etc. So, when you look at this, so what do you now do? Therefore, when you create these things, you convert that creation into your property. Mind you, when you go to a builder is creating. You pay the money to the builder, pay advance. Do you become a property owner? Do you become a property owner? When do you become a property owner?
You sign the contract.
No.
You get the keys.
No.
Registration
When the registration takes place. Correct. So, when you convert that, you're converting that into a property. Right? So you have to convert. So till you don't convert it into property, it doesn't become property. So your creations remain as creations, it does not become your property. I have created, but is it my property? Don't know. Very important. So you do that. So you convert now that into a property. So it's the process. You go through that process to convert. That registration, mutation, etc., that are there, you go through a process. So you do that process. Till you don't do the process, it doesn't become your property. So when we say intellectual property, the word intellectual means creation of the human mind. So what I created out of my mind, I convert to a property, then it becomes an intellectual property. Because I've converted into intellectual property, then I get rights to it, and it says intellectual property rights. So rights come only after I have converted it into a property. And then the next word. What is the difference between the word property and asset? Is all property an asset? No. When does property become asset?
When it has a value.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So which means simply getting intellectual property for the sake of getting property is no big deal. Till you don't convert, take that property and create a value out of it. And to create a value out of it, there are processes. And then you need to know how to manage your intellectual property. So you enhance the value, you create an asset and try to sustain that asset. And like all other property, the moment you get this property, the whole aspect of management of that property becomes important. That's the important part, and that's what, again you can see, I could have written this, but don't tell me why I thought I should do this gimmick of writing this way. I did it. It just occurred to me that it would look nice if you put something like this. Okay? So this is, that's why you will not see a duplication of this. Somebody may copy this slide, that's a separate issue. But I don't copy anybody's slides. You will not find a single slide of what I do, a copy of anybody's slide. Because that gives me the challenge of how to present. Communication, you talked about pigeon is not good enough. Here also, preparation of a slide is a creation. Conceptualization for communication, very important. Now, I'll just jump. And now is another statement from Swami Vivekananda, which I'm very fond of. I'm very influenced, if you may say. He says, it must be admitted that though the presence of knowledge is everywhere, in every individual is an essential truism, yet the path pointed out by the great ones of the earth has glory peculiar to it, and that there is a peculiar interest attached to the transmission of knowledge. What is Royal Global University doing? Transmission of knowledge through the succession of teachers and the disciples. Each of them has its place in the development of the sum total of knowledge, and we must learn to estimate them according to the respective merits. So what is a property and what is an asset, and everything else comes in and follows out of that. So now, therefore, what we are doing, we have now come to a stage where we have converted our creations, the knowledge, into property, not yet into assets, property. So when we create law, right, these laws of intellectual property rights have 4 very essential features. And what are those 4 essential features? The first part is it gives you ownership to that knowledge. When you publish a paper, mind you, you are an author, but not an owner of that knowledge. You are owner of that paper, but not owner of the knowledge. There's a big difference. So if I simply took your paper and created a product out of that, you can do nothing to me. Okay? Nothing. Because I'm perfectly legally right to do what I did. Are you the property owner? No. You're not property owner. Clear? So it gives you, so when you convert that into something, to get an intellectual property right from it, then you own the knowledge. Not automatically. You may think you're the creator. I may give you a Nobel Prize. I may give you Bharat Ratna. But you will not get the rights as the owner of that knowledge. Important. Second, these rights which are there are territorial in nature. Why they are territorial in nature? Because the government or the sovereign gives you that right. So the right that is given to us by Government of India is not valid in Nepal. Even though I don't need a visa to go to Nepal or to Bhutan. Forget Bangladesh and Sri Lanka and Pakistan. Right? So it's territorial. So the right is within the political boundaries of that country or the government or the sovereign that gives you that right. Second part is the term, the duration of that right is also limited. It's not forever. And each type of right has its own duration. We'll touch it later. But then, because the government gives you certain rights, all laws have also something called exceptions. Exceptions. So we have to know what those exceptions are. That who is permitted to use the thing without prior consent of the knowledge owner. So there are certain things which are allowed. And then, because the government gives you the right, who is the government? Society. Government represents the society. So society has given you the right, society gives you these particular exceptions, society therefore demands certain obligations from you. And therefore you have to meet those obligations. Clear? So if this is so, now I'm just going to come to some terms and then we'll go into a general discussion. So, Again, these words which are seen here, all of you have heard the word called patent? I'm sure by now. Interestingly, most of the articles that are written in the newspapers, most of them, I mean I say it with confidence, 9 out of 10 are wrong. Misguided, misinformed, they are wrong. When I tell these editors of these papers, I call them up. I say, you know the social crime you have done by sending that article in the paper? You have misguided millions of people who are reading that paper. Please put an apology. Nobody puts. Right? So, the point is, and one happened just about a few days ago, about a week ago. But forget that. Moment you see the word patent or hear the word patent, what should come to your mind? I'm asking you. Anyway.
Invention.
Yes, absolutely. Inventions. Patents protect inventions. They don't protect discoveries. Right? Why they don't protect discoveries? That's already there. An invention is what you created. Right? And when you say invention, an invention is always associated with functionality. Always. I want a better chair, I want a better table, I want a better glass, I want better this, better that, etc., etc. Need-based. You address that need, functional need. Right. So that functional need which you fulfilled, which others had not fulfilled till then, is an invention, and that invention can be protected. I said can be, not is. You mark my words, very important. Alright? So can be protected by this legal tool called patents, or patent. The features of aesthetics and non-functional features. Aesthetic, non-functional features are protected by this tool called design registration. Okay? They're protected by design registration. So that's the difference. Design registrations protect aesthetics, non-functional features. Patents protect inventions and functional features. Very, very clear. Okay? Extremely clear on that. Then, so that is this part, and that's that part. Now that Apple or Firestone or Vision-IPR, where you are associating the words, etc., are these being used, words or symbols in course of trade. Therefore, they are called trademarks. And for service, they are called service marks. Trademark, service mark. So that's how the word trademark comes in. Trademarks don't protect inventions. Trademarks protect these symbols, words, or for example, when you're watching the television and you hear, before the news or whatever, NDTV has a certain jingle, BBC has something, CNN, even if you don't look at it, you will say that's BBC. Correct? That sound, the distinctness of the sound tells you and you associate. Those are trademarks and service marks. Right? So that is that part. And these type of, expressions which you do, or you write a book or article or whatever, you can protect it by this representation, this expression is protected by copyright. So now you should not make a mistake between patent, trademark, copyright, design registration. There are others I will not touch at the moment, except one more, which I shall touch. And that's this geographical indication. These are the words, geographical indication. That product has attained a certain reputation because it is associated with the geography of a place. It may not have the name of a geography, but it may be. So Banarasi sari or Banarasi brocade very clearly is Banarasi. Darjeeling tea, very interesting. Darjeeling. Muga. Does Muga mean Assam? Muga does not mean Assam. But belongs to Assam. Absolutely. So, moment I say Muga, everybody says, Muga, Assam. Where? Dhokwa Khana, North Lakhimpur, Swalkuchi, and that region. Right? Immediately, all that comes to your mind. So, those names, like Muga. So, if I made Muga in Bombay, can I call it Muga? If I weave, I take the silk thread from here and weave a cloth in Bombay. Should I be allowed to call it Muga? Answer is no. Because Muga is associated with Assam. And that's protected by what is known as a geographical indication. In fact, Professor Burgan and myself and our team have done a lot of work many years ago with the Muga silk workers and others. And we used to visit, spend time there with all of them to really create things about Muga and whatnot. So these are various things that go about. For example, now, in the last few months, Gamucha, right, is a geographical indication. It has been protected in India. So I can't make this in Mumbai and call it Gamucha. Very important. So these are the type of important things that you see. This is what makes intellectual property rights so important. Just very quickly before I get into a discussion, I'm not going into all these. So these creations can be protected by these various tools of intellectual property right. Therefore, when you do your creations, you must identify the different aspects of those creations and then say, I will protect this aspect with a patent, this aspect with a design registration, this aspect with a trademark, this aspect with a copyright, that aspect I will not tell anybody, and therefore it's my trade secret or know-how, etc., etc. And that is how you create a protection, a 360-degree protection around your creation. That's the strategy part. Last but not the least, I will just jump now quite a few. I wanted to show you this. This is a very interesting case study I did some time back. How many of you have eaten Lay's? I'm sure everybody, right? Correct? Tell me, what is so typical about Lay's? What is so typical about Lay's? Taste. What else? Flavor. What else? Crispiness. What else? Packaging. What else?
Less food, more air.
Very good one. Excellent. You must tell this to Pepsi. What else? What else? Sorry? Lines on the chip. Very good. One more. There's something you're missing out still. That's why I'm going again and again and again. Potato it is, because it's potato chips. What color? No, tell. Flavor is gone. Now your chance for flavor is gone. You have to tell something else. There is no hole, okay. But there are so many chips where there are no holes. Right? Tell me something which is very unique, and next time you open a Lay's packet, please go and look for it. It looks like none of you have seen it. Shape done. What else? Something which only Lay's has. So now you go, now Lay's sale will go up tomorrow. Wavy, he said. Wavy, yes, you're right. Wavy, yes. But something that you must have not noticed. Very interesting.
Sir, the masalas or the flavors are named
Flavor ho gaya.
according to the geography,
Flavor ho gaya. Flavor is done.
like American beam or
Agreed. Flavor is done. But but something which others don't have.
No one can eat just one.
Well, interesting. I'm going to tell you something which you must go and observe. Now, all of you can buy one packet of Lay's and take out all the chips and look at it. So you need not buy so many packets of Lay's. Okay? I'm not advertising for Lay's here, but interesting. Next time you open a packet of Lay's, what you will notice is all the chips have a uniform color. Uniform color.
So in the same packet?
Yes. You take 20 packets, they will all have uniform color. Very unique. Very, very unique. You don't find brown spots. You don't find browning. If you find, please complain to Lay's, saying that you're cheating me. Now, let me come to what is this about Lay's? The innovation that comes out of Lay's. I want to tell you, this is the part, very interesting one. And this is where people do consumer research. Now I'm coming to business management, right? And science, and technology, and designing, and everything in that innocent chips. So innocent, right? So here, consumers' perception of potato chips, which you were putting, of course is there. Satisfaction with color, flavor, nutrition, shelf life, safety, etc., etc. Then, what did, it is known in science that, when you fry potatoes, the color changes. Next time you put the potato and you're frying at home, just see how the color changes, right? This is chemistry. So what happens is that in the potato, when you're frying, acrylamide gets formed during frying to give brown color. So the brown color comes because of this chemical. Now, that depends on the content of reducing sugars, amino acids, or proteins at the surface of the potato. This is known. Question is, how do you're looking at a potato, you can't make out that whether it has more reducing sugar or less reducing sugar. So how will you do the quality control? Challenge. Now see, a consumer perception, you don't like to take a chips with brown spots, half brown, half yellow. And why? Because the brown part will taste different, the yellow part will be tasting different. You talked about taste, right? It's different. So how will you then make it all, either all brown or all yellow? It's not happening. You fry, even at home when you fry, right? Is it all brown or all yellow? No. Part of it is brown, part of it is yellow. Interestingly, but when...
Due to heat actually.
Yeah, absolutely. But then, that means these reducing sugars, etc. on the surface of the potato is different. You're right. And what happens is that when you take this, the brown part has different amount of oil from the fry, from the yellow part. So when you eat the brown part, you get a certain taste. When you eat the yellow part, you get some other taste. Right? So people don't like this non-homogeneous oil distribution on chips also. It doesn't taste good on the tongue. So what did Pepsi do? Now this is the challenge. So here is the unmet need, what you said, requirements. So they came to what is the scientific finding. So now we are coming to food research. So 2.5 to 3 milligram of reducing sugar per gram of potato should be the maximum value accepted for potato chip preparation. Then it will not give you this. And of course, how you fry, etc. are also there. But first start with the potato. If your potato doesn't have this, then you do whatever you want, you won't get. So, therefore, what they do, they said we'll create a new type of potato. So, now work in biotechnology and biology. So they created a new type of potato tubers, which had this type of amount of sugar. Now you'll say when you're making potato or growing potato, you are not controlling it otherwise. So they created a new plant variety. Now we are entering into Professor Burgan's territory. Right? They created the new type of potato where this sugar level will not be so much per gram, it will not exceed. So they created a new variety. So they created this new variety. And having created this new variety, they protected its functional property. In India, you can't get a patent. In US, you can get a patent, but they protected it under what is known as New Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Act. The part of the lectures which you used to give in Tezpur. So they protected it as a new plant variety in India. Then what did they do? Now, the moment they protect, now others cannot make this potato. It's there. Now this is their uniqueness that comes in. So what did they do? So they identified, they created these potato tubers, they established the proof of concept, they created a solution, converted that into a technology, converted that into a product which you and I eat. And then what did they do? After having done all this, how will they do it in the thing? They went into the whole area of contract farming, business management, innovation in business management. So in contract farming, they go to these farmers and say, we will give you the technology of how to grow the potato, we will give you the seeds, we'll tell you how much water to put, we'll tell you which fertilizer to give, we'll tell you all the things to you. So, as a part of the contract, our quality control people will come to your farm in our interest, and we will buy your entire produce. So you get into a contract farming. So now innovations in business methods. So now you can see we started from where we end up with business method. And that is how they run their business. And that is why Lay's bought in any part of the world, okay, are having these type of things. Then they don't stop at that. And this is what is the difference between crucibles of learning in universities and companies. So if you don't work with companies closely, you don't understand how companies think about innovation. So that's the next part. So they created a supply chain. Not only that, quality driven, farmers purchase those things and go through the whole process which I told you. Last but not the least is what you were mentioning. All these specialized equipments, processes, etc., all these are patented technologies by Pepsi. So what you said, frying, how much oil to use, what sort of pans to use, what sort of things to do, all these are patented technologies. Then what did they do? You talked about those serrations, you talked about the lines, all these, they protected them with design registrations because that's not functional. Aesthetics. So nobody is allowed to make chips with this type of thing. Right? Lay's, this layout, Lay's is trademark, and the entire thing of the, the designing of the package, etc., is also their copyright, the artwork. So what have they done? They've protected. It's a 360-degree protection. You get a feel of how intellectual property rights are used, how innovations get converted to intellectual property rights, and how intellectual property rights get converted into assets by managing. And now, like every other thing, you can trade if somebody else, now I will, wants to make these. What will they do? They will have to go to Pepsi, take a license from them, and then they can make. If they don't, Pepsi will give 1 ton of bricks on their head, take them to the court. So this is important. Last point, I won't go beyond this slide, but last point which I want to make is the following, that in many of these things, when you become an entrepreneur, say Royal Global, I find a solution to something, I create something, I'm converting that into a business. I convert it into business, right? That means I know that I'm out of this product or service, I'm going beyond the walls of Royal Global. I do it, but I suddenly realize maybe I can't sustain, maybe I can. But for sustenance, Then I must find investors. I have to convert this into a bigger business. I must raise the value of my asset. I have to go for loans, etc. Maybe if I patents, trademarks, etc., I can take that and mortgage that property against a loan. Now I'm going to finance management. So see from where I started and where I'm going. Right? Today, as far as India is concerned, government of India is concerned, has got tremendous opportunities. When I was a young kid, right, we never had these opportunities. Despite that, many became entrepreneurs at that stage. Like, for example, Birlas, Tatas, right? Ambanis. You know how Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani started? Anybody? Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani used to fill petrol in cars in the petrol pump. And then he thought, oh, I'm filling petrol, but why don't I make petrol? Why don't I make petrol?
So if I am not wrong, he used to sell the garments in the Europe.
Sorry?
If I am not wrong, Dhirubhai Ambani used to sell the garments.
He used to sell, first he was a petrol, he used to work in the petrol pump filling petrol and do a lot of other things. He started off that way. But, you know, in Cadila Pharma, I mean, I've been a consultant to Cadila Pharma for the last 25 years. I go there every month. Mr. Indravadan Modi, who may be converted after Prafulla Chandra Ray, who may be called as the father of, drugs and pharmaceutical industry in India. It was Indravadan Modi. So one day I asked Mr. Indravadan Modi that, how did you start? He said, you know, in Ahmedabad, and this is going back when I was a kid, those days, the doctors, okay, you didn't get medicines the way you buy in the shops just like this. You went to a doctor, you say, sir, bukhar ho gaya hamara. He would touch your ear, open your tongue, put that, you wash, all that, everything. And then he would say, okay, here is a bottle, he would give you. And in that bottle, there would be paper stuck and a colored liquid. So he would say, take 1 lot, 2 lots, this morning, this evening. So that. Now, was he making it? No. He had what is known as a compounder. Have you heard this? Compounder? No, he used to be a compounder. So he would do all this and make that little thing and give it to you in a paper. He would turn the paper, this and packet, and give you 3 packets and 1 bottle. Right? So Mr. Indravadan Modi said that, look, I have an idea. Why should all the compounders do this? Why not I do for 50 doctors? Prepare in my house and give it to these 50 dispensaries. So he and his wife, both were in pharmacy. Pharmacy, they did pharmacy. B-Farm, those days. This is going back by 92 years ago. Right? To be very precise, yes. 2014, I think he died at the age of 86. So you add, so about 90 odd years ago. He would do that. He and his wife would go on a cycle, go doctor by doctor. You need 1 liter, he needs 2 liters, he needs 3 liters, etc., etc. Come home, make these, and again go by cycle. Then he realized this is a very inefficient way of doing things. There must be an industry, and he started Cadila Pharmaceuticals. I've been associated with that company now for 25 years. In the whole journey of 75 years in that company, as a formal, I've been involved the last 25 years. And Mr. Indravadan Modi started that way. And most of those entrepreneurs started that way during that time. Today, you have opportunities. You don't have to go on a cycle. So, today the government is giving you a lot of these things. So when you start an entrepreneurship, okay, you can go in a very advanced manner with all these opportunities. So I just want to show you one beautiful example here. This is a very beautiful example. Last one, and that is, this device you can see, it's a small device. This device is actually put on a tube well. And tube well gets the water from, it's a groundwater, The groundwater is full of microbes. How will you kill them? So when you just pump and get the water out of the tube well, it's full of microbes. So either you treat it chemically by putting, lime or whatever to precipitate things and all those things. But how will you kill the microbes? So most of the people who drink the tube well water actually suffer from a lot of stomach stuff and other things. So a young entrepreneur, almost 12, 14 years ago, came to me. His name is Anjan Mukherjee. So Anjan came to me. He said, I have a great idea. I work a lot with entrepreneurs, right? So last 14 years or so. So he came to me and says, I have a great idea. So what is your idea? Sir, when I pump this water, it will go through a device which I will design. And the water will be free of microbes. Okay? Brilliant concept. I will not put chemicals, I will not use electricity, I will not do this. It will only go through my device. And I will design this device. Are there chemical engineers here? Anybody? Now, in chemical engineering, there is a concept of what is known as cavitation. Right? Cavitation. So what is cavitation? Big word for a simple concept. Okay? What is a simple concept? Simple concept is there's flowing water, for example, and you put a net in front of water, then it hits the net and it comes out from here. What happens? What happens? Have anyone seen? Forget net, you put a stone. The flowing water hits like this and then flows from the side. What happens? How many of you have gone to a stream and seen a stream?
Produce energy.
How will it produce energy?
It is like
And what will happen? What happens? Please think. Have you seen flowing water? Just simply a stream, and there are stones. It hits like this, and then what goes this side? Bubbles. Absolutely. So this breaks into bubbles. Some break into bubbles, some don't. Some amount. And this chemical engineering tells you that depending on what is the nature of this obstruction, the nature of these bubbles will change. The number of bubbles will change, the size of the bubbles will change, all that will change. And when the bubbles go a bit distance, what happens? It bursts. So it bursts and releases energy. So what is happening? This kinetic energy which is coming from here gets locked as potential energy in the bubbles move, burst, release the energy. Which means part of this energy will convert into bubbles, that energy will get released. And he says that energy is good enough to kill these microbes. Okay? So what is the challenge? Challenge is to create this obstruction, design this obstruction, so that the force with which, the pressure with which the water will come up, it will go through this, create the bubbles in this much little space, the bubbles will break, release the energy, the microbes will get killed, and you will get a pure water coming out of this, free of microbes. Sounds very simple, eh? Sounds very trivial. I wrote a patent for it first. And then we filed this patent around the world. Now you've got about 40 patents and whatnot. Very interesting. We did all this. Okay? We invested. When I do work for these type of brilliant ideas, I generally do it free of cost. I do it because, you're encouraged. These type of, I don't do free of cost for everybody. But for these type of ideas which I see are of tremendous potential, I do it pro bono. With some entrepreneurs, I also don't do it free bono. I do it free that time. So when you earn money, then you can come and use it. Okay? So there are different models that we follow. With Anjan, we did. Then the interesting part was, I think it was 2015, 2016. I was sitting in London and I got a phone call from the Prime Minister's office, Mr. Modi's office. What is the phone call? Phone call saying Mr. Modi is going to Israel. Right? He's going to Israel. But he wants to take some entrepreneurs with him to Israel. Can you suggest some entrepreneurs who are what can represent the country? So I gave his name on the phone from London. Called up on him and told him that look, you will get a call from the PM's office and you will be called for an interview. So go prepare. So he got a call. He went to Delhi. He presented his thing, and the Prime Minister did not see it, but the Prime Minister's office was very impressed with him and said, "You will accompany the Prime Minister to Israel," which he did. Okay. So if you go to the name of his company is called Taral Tech, TARAL TEC. You can see it in the mobile, Taral Tech. Anjan Mukherjee, Taral Tech. So he went there and demonstrated this. He came back, of course, he became very famous. Okay. Then he got followed up with Mr. Modi, Benjamin Netanyahu, who is not very liked for them. That's a separate issue. But he's got all those things. And mind you, after that, of course, he got all the international awards, etc. And he's converted that into a business. It's operative in various villages today across the country. People have recognized him, and today his invention, this device which you're seeing now, is on permanent display at the Deutsche Museum in Germany. There's a major breakthrough invention in the world. That's innovation. And only last month, and this is the sadness of our country, that you first get recognized out, then we recognize you here. And now, the museum in Bombay, they called him and now they put that in. That is because they have recognized. But that's besides the point. But I do a lot of work with a lot of young entrepreneurs who come with brilliant ideas. And today, the country is absolutely poised. It's buoyant with this idea. So I will end the talk here with this, that the opportunities are huge, but think about it in real time. What is real time? And mind you, you got to move very fast. Because today, as you get the ideas, 15 others get the same idea. Right? Therefore, I wanted to present before you, okay? And it is very interesting that when I started off my career as a scientist, I was a scientist. Right? When I did my PhD, I don't know how many of you were born here in this room. Very few. Right? I submitted my PhD thesis in 1976. So, very few were born in 1976, except a few. Right? Yeah, that's what I said. Very few. I did not say no. So, very few. And mind you, then I decided, I went abroad like everybody would go in 1976, and nobody would come back to India. It was a time when you went and sort of green cards were available on treetops. You were able to pluck it. Okay? So we all were given all that. My wife is a nuclear physicist. Neither my wife nor I took those things. We decided to come back, not for any nationalistic reason. We were not nationalistic. Right? We just came back saying we will be more comfortable here. That's all. So we came back on completely selfish grounds that we will be more comfortable working in India. So both of us came and joined the Atomic Energy Commission in BRC. And then within 1 year, for various circumstances, I joined industry. 1981, it was not known of scientists joining industry. But I joined Unilever, that fantastic lab in Bombay. Great mentors, great people who were working in the laboratories. I joined them. And then spent some time in the lab as a research scientist. Then I was managing factories. One day I told the board that, I've been giving technology to the business, but how is this converted to business? I don't understand. You can't understand by simply staying in the R&D. So they said, fine, no problem. You won't do that? Go and take over a factory general. I had no experience of labor, no experience of finance, no experience of anything. Overnight, they put me a factory general. Run. Right? I mean, you want to learn swimming? Go. Hello? You know, do something, learn. If you don't learn swimming, you will sink. Good luck to you. Right? Good luck to you. I learned how to swim. Lucky. Very quickly. Right? And I was doing it. I was then handling labor, handling very tough situations. Then I realized in 1990, 91, that no, intellectual property rights are going to be very important to run business. Right? So I said I want to leave the company and go and study law. So the company said, why do you want to waste time studying law? Right? I mean, those days, if you studied law, either your father, grandfather, or somebody was a lawyer, or you had nothing else to do and therefore you did law. Today it's not like that. Today is law by choice. Today it is law by choice. Those days was law by default. Okay? That's the difference. But the company said, no, don't leave like that. So they sent me back to England. We go and study abroad there. We have a team of over 150, intellectual property professionals who take care of our business worldwide. Go, learn on the job. So I went there. I learned. Now, the difference between those lawyers and me was that I had got a taste of business. They didn't. So I was looking at this subject from a different standpoint. They were looking at this subject from a different standpoint. But both were contributing. It's nothing that I'm smaller and they're small. It's a synergy. But then I studied the law part of it. And then I said, how do I convert this and make it into a business? So develop a business model of innovation from lab to the business and business to the lab. That became a global model. So I did that for 10 years in the international scenario. And then I decided to jump out of the system and join both consulting and academics. That's how I moved out in 2001. I must tell you that in the last, say from 1976 till this hour, not 1 minute has been boring. It's been a challenge, it's been learning, and every day is learning. Why? Now imagine, how fortunate I am. That every single day you meet a new entrepreneur. Every single day you meet a creative person. What can be better, tonic than that? When you meet a young person of 20, 22, 30, saying, I have an idea, I want to convert this into a business. I mean, that sharpness and, in the eye is something that becomes a tremendous tonic for somebody like me. And that's what keeps me going. And I thought I would share that experience with you.
Thank you.
So that's how it is. Thank you.
So you have no regret in coming back to India?
Sorry?
You have no regret?
I have not regretted a single day. In fact, it's very interesting. Almost every month, I'm abroad, somewhere or the other, right? And my friends who settle abroad, tell me how lucky you are. You eat the fish back home, right? And we miss that fish. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. So no, we don't miss.
Thank you so much.
India, you can enjoy more in India than
Absolutely. I mean, last 3 weeks, I was in Cambodia, I was in Malaysia, I was in Singapore, all these places, lecturing. So that's all. So thank you very much.
This is the vote of thanks. You have heard him. You have seen the level he has scaled, right? How he has shifted his domains, but each are related to each other, ultimately making a whole picture, a complete picture, right? From science to business, industry to law, and making it all together. So this is something remarkable. I'm so very fortunate and privileged to have worked with him. And he mentioned about Dhokwa Khana. right? He mentioned about those backwaters of Assam where we work for geographical indications or indicators. That is a part of the IPR regime for Muga silk. And I think we did something record, some record. In 1 or 2 days, we did something fantastic. On another occasion, I can relate it to you. But that was remarkable. Now, what I would like to offer at the end is that, in fact, Professor Ganguli, you remember, I think the week after I joined this place, I wrote a letter to you with a request that you become a visiting professor or emeritus professor. Everything was started, everything had been taken forward. But for the COVID, I think, it could not be taken to the logical conclusion. Now, a registrar is not there. I think I am telling to my fellow colleagues here, please take it forward, right? Let us revive it. It would be an absolute honor for us, Royal Global University, to have Professor Prabuddha Ganguli as a mentor emeritus professor, at least for the Institution's Innovation Council. Please take it forward. I think I have taken your permission and I will take it forward, sir, this time. And we want more such visits from Professor Ganguli, more such interactions, especially for the young boys and girls. You have seen how innovation works. And that is the only thing that you should look forward to, not jobs, right? But your creativities. And I have one question. Yeah, Jubin is there. You mentioned about IPR for designs and all that. This is my curiosity. We have a beautiful department of fine arts. They have a section called sculpture. Design? No, you have design communication, but also we have sculptures. Now, yeah, you have there. So how do you put in those creations? See, you see a Buddha statue, big one, sitting in our front lawn. That is a creation of a student, right? But there are n number of such Buddha statues. So how do you protect it?
Now, it depends
I think
on
that's a valid question.
what is that specific Buddha which you have done differentiates it from other Buddhas. So we'll have to look at these things contextually.
We have to compare both in product and in process.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I think there are many things.
Like second Buddha
Yes.
in Thailand.
So we'll have to look at those things.
Once again, Professor Ganguli, thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.